This banner. Welcome to Clifton, where Black Lives Matter was put up on Main Street in the Northern Virginia town of Clifton in 2020. It was a simple local sign of support from the predominantly white community there after the summer of unrest that followed George Floyd's killing. But one very prominent figure wanted it taken down. She emailed the mayor, writing, "Black Lives Matter is a bit of a dangerous Trojan horse, and they are catching well-meaning people into dangerous posturing that can invite mob rule and property looting. Let's not be tricked into joining cause with radical extremists seeking to foment a cultural revolution because they hate America." Those emails, obtained by the Washington Post, were written by none other than Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. The Post wrote this all up in July 2020. A few months later, a large case involving the rights of a prominent Black Lives Matter activist came before the Supreme Court. The court ruled in his favor, but Clarence Thomas dissented. Now, should Thomas have recused from that case because of his wife's behavior? Maybe. But that conflict seems almost cute compared to Ginny Thomas's subsequent interactions with people at the highest levels of the Trump administration, including then President Trump himself. Ginny Thomas met routinely with the president, handing him lists of people to hire and fire and lobbying him on various issues, all while Trump had numerous cases before the Supreme Court. Then, of course, there is everything after the 2020 election. Forget letters to local mayors about street signs. The Washington Post and CBS News got their hands on texts from Ginny Thomas to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows after the 2020 election, where the two discussed strategies to overturn the election results, calling the election a heist. Those texts indicated that she may have also been lobbying the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to support efforts to overturn the election. Ginny Thomas also sent an email to Republicans in Congress, pressuring them to protest the 2020 election results. She told them she wouldn't help a conservative group until they ran until their members were, quote, out in the streets. Then, of course, there is the fact that she both promoted and personally attended the Stop the Steal rally that directly preceded the attack on our Capitol on January the 6th. She also repeatedly pushed the big lie on an email chain that included all of Clarence Thomas's former Supreme Court clerks over 3 decades, many of whom are quite powerful now. Ginny Thomas used every avenue available to try to overturn the 2020 election and keep Trump in office. And when the Supreme Court decided in January of this year to deny a request from President Trump to block the January 6th investigation from getting access to Trump's White House records, not only did Justice Thomas not recuse, he was the only dissent. His own wife was one of the people communicating regularly with the White House about overturning the election, and he voted that those records should not see the light of day. Now, today, the Washington Post's Emma Brown got her hands on emails from Ginny Thomas days after the 2020 election, pressuring Arizona lawmakers to help reverse the results of the election. Not just strategizing about overturning the election, but actively trying to get them to approve a, quote, clean slate of Trump electors in place of the electors representing Biden's very legitimate win in that state. Quote, the email sent by Ginny Thomas to a pair of lawmakers on November the 9th, 2020, argued that legislators needed to intervene because the vote had been marred by fraud. The emails were sent to Rusty Bowers, a veteran legislator and Speaker of the Arizona House, and Shauna Bolick, who was first elected to the chamber in 2018. Bolick's husband sits on the Supreme Court of Arizona. He also used to work for Clarence Thomas. That lawmaker, Shauna Bolick, is now running to be the Arizona Secretary of State. One email from Ginny Thomas read, Article 2 of the United States Constitution gives you an awesome responsibility to choose our state's electors. Please take action to ensure that a clean slate of electors is chosen. In another, the day before the members of the Electoral College were set to cast their votes for Biden, Thomas wrote, before you choose your state's electors, consider what will happen to the nation we all love if you don't stand up and lead. The next day, as Biden electors in Arizona cast their votes, Shauna Bolick, one of the two lawmakers Thomas pressured, was among a dozen Arizona lawmakers who signed a letter to Congress calling for the state's electoral votes to go to Trump, not Biden, who, remember, actually won that state. Ginny Thomas and her supporters insisted her advocacy stands separate and apart from her husband's work on the highest court in the land. Yeah. Some Senate Democrats have called for Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from election-related cases. But why not go further? Okay, fine, you don't want to try and impeach him. But why not call for him to resign? Why not hold hearings? Make a big deal of this. What do you think Republicans would be doing if the situation was reversed and this was a liberal justice and their spouse?